There's a time, not too long ago, when Meghan Markle was one of the most photographed women in the world. The royal weddings, the balcony appearances, the grand tours, everything she did carried the weight of history. Cameras didn't just follow her, they chased her. Tabloids didn't just write about her, they obsessed over her. She wasn't just a celebrity, she was royalty. And with that came a kind of power that no Hollywood actress, no billionaire influencer, no reality TV star could ever truly replicate. But fast forward just a few years, and Meghan's reality looks startlingly different. Instead of commanding global attention with a speech at the UN or a glittering red carpet gala, she's pinning her hopes on something much smaller, a lifestyle brand called As Ever, and a carefully curated gift basket. Not just any gift basket, a PR package sent straight to America's most influential family, the Kardashians.
All the lies about the British royal family, all the racism claims, all the desperate desire to bring down the British monarchy was all for this? For this?
The Kardashians. No, let's pause right there. The Meghan Markle's brush shoulders with world leaders is now strategically selling products to reality TV stars, crossing her fingers for a shout-out. That image alone tells you just how far things have shifted. And yet, this was no casual gesture. This was a deliberate power play. Meghan knew that a Kardashian tag, one single Instagram story, one post, one mention skyrocketed her brand overnight. She knew the Kardashian endorsement was the holy grail of modern marketing, the golden ticket to relevance and authenticity. But here's the twist. It didn't happen. Instead,
Night finally joined the Kardashian club. And I feel really sad about it. For all my girls, starting with Kay, she posted, and we know she's looked up to Khloe and Kim and Kourtney for some years.
But here's the twist. It didn't happen. Instead of a viral moment, instead of a Kardashian stamp of approval on Meghan's new venture, there was silence. Deafening, humiliating silence. Except, of course, for one tiny fleeting story on Khloe Kardashian's account, a blurry shot of flowers and food that didn't even mention Meghan's name. The kind of story fans barely noticed, the kind of post that screamed filler content. And in Hollywood, silence isn't neutral. It's lethal. So how did Meghan get here? How did a woman represent?
Surprising, given those three actually work really hard, unlike her. But it's just quite pathetic, isn't it, that this is now the highlight of Meghan Markle's world. A woman who quite literally...
So how did Meghan get here? How did a woman who once represented the prestige of the British monarchy end up hoping for crumbs of recognition from a family that built its empire on sex tapes, scandals, and social media manipulation? How does someone go from commanding the palace spotlight to being quietly sidelined in Hollywood's influencer economy? That's the story we're unpacking today. Meghan Markle's attempt at a Kardashian-style power play and how it backfired so spectacularly. We'll look at the PR strategy behind those baskets. We'll talk about the Kardashians' chilling silence, the whispers of regifting, and why in Hollywood, being ignored is sometimes worse than being criticized. We'll dig into the hypocrisy of Meghan publicly condemning racism in the royal family, only to chase the approval of a clan whose controversies include blackfishing, exploitation, and cultural appropriation. And finally, we'll expose the harsh reality of Meghan's place in the Hollywood hierarchy. The brutal reminder that in Los Angeles, your title means nothing if you can't move culture.
Given the opportunity by the late Queen Elizabeth II to change the world, now has her world changed?
This isn't just a story about branding gone wrong. It's a story about power, about perception, about what it really means to be relevant in Hollywood. Because Meghan's gift basket wasn't just a basket, it was a gamble. A carefully calculated move designed to buy her way into Kardashian circles. And the Kardashians' response, or lack thereof, may be the most devastating rejection of Meghan Markle's career. So buckle up, because if Meghan's royal exit was dramatic, her Hollywood entrance is turning out to be even more brutal. Launching As Ever wasn't supposed to be just another celebrity side hustle. For Meghan Markle, this was her chance to carve out a new empire. She had walked away from the royals, she had tried the podcasting route with archetypes, and while the Spotify deal fizzled into embarrassment, As Ever was meant to be her comeback. Think about it. Clean aesthetics, aspirational branding, luxury packaging. The name itself was designed to be timeless, something that felt always relevant. This wasn't random, it was intentional. Every detail was curated to signal that Meghan was serious about entering the lifestyle arena. But Meghan wasn't just chasing consumers. She was chasing credibility. In Hollywood, it's not enough to launch a product. You need cultural capital. You need someone bigger than you, or at least someone more relevant in the moment to stamp it with approval. And Meghan knew exactly where that approval had to come from. Enter.
Because the least known, the least popular, the nastiest of the Kardashian sisters decides to post a hamper of dodgy as-ever goodies.
Enter the Kardashians, the family everyone loves to mock, but secretly controls the temperature of pop culture. These are not just reality stars, they're moguls. Collectively, they have more reach than most Fortune 500 companies. They have the power to turn a small, unknown business into a multi-million-dollar brand overnight. A single post from him or Kylie can crash websites. Casual product placement in one of their shows can launch entire trends. And Meghan, the former royal trying to reinvent herself as a Hollywood tastemaker, understood this better than anyone. So she turned to the oldest trick in the celebrity PR handbook, the gift basket.
On this. So Khloe Kardashian posted this on her Instagram stories today on Kylie Jenner's birthday.
So she turned to the oldest trick in the celebrity PR handbook, the gift basket. But this wasn't just any PR package. These baskets were engineered to impress. Think high-end candles, bespoke spreads, artisanal food products, all arranged in photogenic perfection. The kind of thing that practically begged to be unboxed on Instagram. Meghan wasn't just sending a gift, she was setting a stage she hoped Khloe, Kim, or Kylie would step onto and amplify with a single tap of the share button. This was, in Meghan's mind, a brilliant strategy. She wasn't just targeting customers, she was targeting gatekeepers. Kardashians weren't competitors, they were kingmakers. If she could align herself with them, it would fast-track her brand into relevance. Forget the royal family, the Kardashians were a new crown in Hollywood. But here's where it's fascinating. For Meghan, this wasn't just about sales. This was about belonging, about proving she'd sit at the same table as the women who dominate the Los Angeles social scene. She wanted to be in those group chats, on those private jet trips, in those front-row Fashion Week photos. The gift baskets weren't just business, they were an invitation, a plea wrapped in ribbon for validation from Hollywood's first family influence. The gamble. If the Kardashians posted Meghan's
not tag as ever or Meghan Markle. This is my theory. Tonight, Kendall Jenner hosted Kylie's family party. Meghan sent all the Kardashians press boxes hoping they would share it with
the gamble. If the Kardashians posted, Meghan's brand would explode. She'd finally have a Hollywood moment. The risk? If they didn't, the silence would say more than any criticism ever could. And that's exactly where things went wrong. So, what happened after Meghan's beautiful package baskets landed in Kardashian hands? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No gushing Instagram captions, no carefully staged unboxing reels, no thanks Meghan tags that would send as ever orders into overdrive. Just silence. And in Hollywood, silence is not neutral. Silence is a message. The only trace of Meghan's
happened. Someone from the family regifted the as-ever crap. Khloe then took a pic of it. Meghan sees this hours later and jumps at the chance to be connected to a Kardashian. Here's the problem.
The only trace of Meghan's grand PR push came from Khloe Kardashian, and even that was almost insulting in its indifference. A fleeting Instagram story, blurry, low effort, showing flowers and food with no mention of Meghan's name, no brand tag, no excitement. It was the digital equivalent of a polite "we're walking away." If Meghan thought she was going to get the Kardashian effect, this was the opposite. A non-endorsement so casual it bordered on dismissive. And fans noticed. They didn't just notice the lack of promotion, they speculated about it. Was Khloe mocking Meghan with her half-hearted post? Was it a passive-aggressive brush-off? Or was it worse? Had Meghan's carefully designed package been re-gifted before it even made to the Kardashian household? The word started online almost immediately. In an influencer economy where authenticity is supposed to matter, Meghan's gift looked less like a cultural event and more like a desperate bribe. But here's the part that really stings. The Kardashians, this wasn't even shade. It was indifference.
Khloe posting this, probably by mistake, is going to take away from Kylie's party and all the stuff Kendall is currently trying to merch on her Instagram. She added, Meghan gives Khloe Kardashian.
But here's the part that really stings. For the Kardashians, this wasn't even shade. It's indifference. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, a woman who once carried the hopes of modernizing the monarchy, wasn't even worth a mention. And that indifference is devastating. Because in Hollywood, being ignored can kill a brand faster than being dragged. At least when people criticize you, they're talking about you. But when the Kardashians ignore you, they're sending the clearest possible message: you don't matter. This silence didn't just hurt Meghan's ego, it undermined brand strategy at the root. The whole point of As Ever was to be aspirational.
Basket after Khloe calls herself an N-word lover and Kim is concerned over her baby's skin.
The whole point of As Ever was to be aspirational, desirable, something people wanted to be part of. But if the Kardashians, the queens of aspiration, won't touch it, what does that tell consumers? Why should anyone else buy in? It's almost poetic in a brutal way. Meghan left the royal family because she didn't want a second fiddle, because she wanted to control her own narrative. And yet, here she was in Hollywood, begging for scraps of attention from a family whose entire empire is built on controlling narratives. The Duchess had become the supplicant. And the irony doesn't stop there. Meghan has spoken out against the toxicity of fame, the exploitation of women, the pressures of social media. And yet, when it came time to launch her brand,
But it's the royal family that's racist. Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, joins me.
And yet, when it came time to launch her brand, she fell back on the exact same machine she once claimed to despise: the shallow, transactional world of influencer validation. Only this time, that machine didn't want her. When Kardashians stayed silent on Meghan's glossy as gift baskets, the internet did what it always does. It filled in the blanks. And the most cutting rumor that started swirling: Meghan's carefully curated packages had been regifted. In Hollywood.
Can we just take a look at it from a macro level now? The fact that this was a woman who could have had world leaders.
In Hollywood, regifting is the ultimate insult. PR packages arrive by the truckload at the homes of influencers and celebrities. They're not special, they're clutter. And everyone knows when something doesn't make the cut. When it's not Instagram-worthy or brand-fitting, it often gets passed off to assistants, friends, or even donated to charity. Sometimes unopened, sometimes with the note still attached. And the whispers online suggested that's exactly what had happened to Meghan's baskets. Fans noted that Khloe's blurry Instagram story didn't even look like it was filmed in her house. Some said the flower looked recycled. Others pointed out that there wasn't a single reference to Meghan, her brand, or As Ever. The implication: Khloe hadn't even received it directly. It had been passed along. The Duchess of Sussex's supposed power move had been reduced to background noise in someone else's living room. Now, whether or not the regifting rumors were true almost doesn't matter.
Weekend is made by an Instagram story from a Kardashian sister who doesn't even bother to tag her. How the mighty have fallen.
Now, whether or not the regifting rumors were true almost doesn't matter. What matters is the perception. Meghan had banked on this moment to elevate her brand. Instead, optics painted her as desperate, out of touch, and, most painfully, irrelevant. She had tried to buy her way into Kardashian circles, and the gesture landed with all the weight of a cheap promotional freebie. The backlash was brutal. Online commentators mocked Meghan for stooping to what they saw as influencer-level begging. Critics framed the move as yet another example of her miscalculation, overestimating her influence, underestimating the Kardashians' ruthlessness. If Meghan Markle can't even get a tag from Khloe Kardashian, one viral tweet asked, how is she going to run a global lifestyle brand? And this is where the real PR backfire happened. Instead of sparking desire, the stunt highlighted her lack of cultural pull. Instead of aligning her with Hollywood's elite, it underscored the fact that she wasn't on the Kardashians' level. The silence wasn't just silence anymore. It had become a narrative. Meghan Markle, once royal, reduced to a PR girl with a basket of candles, ignored by the very family she wanted to emulate. Branding, perception is everything. And
because Meghan, like you said, she was going to interact with royalty. Her and Harry probably would have taken over the role of Sophie and Edward, going to all the big events held in other countries, the weddings, the birthdays, where there's tiara events and everything.
In branding, perception is everything. And Meghan's perception was unraveling in real time. The gift baskets weren't elevating her, they were exposing her. But the heat didn't stop with the Kardashian silence. For many observers, Meghan's entire stunt opened up a bigger, uglier question: hypocrisy. This is the same Meghan Markle who has built her public image around speaking out against toxic fame, against the media circus, against the objectification of women. She has criticized British tabloids for their obsession with status and appearance. She has spoken passionately about authenticity, values, and mental health. And yet, when it came time to launch as ever, what did she do? She turned straight to the Kardashians, the very embodiment of everything she once condemned. The Kardashians are synonymous with the exploitation of fame. They thrive on cosmetic perfection, controversy, and endless cycles of manufactured drama. They have been accused repeatedly of blackfishing, cultural appropriation, and profiting off of identities that are not their own. They are the poster family, the very kind of toxic celebrity culture Meghan claimed to want to escape. So, why would Meghan chase their approval? The answer, of course, is simple.
Meghan's really where she was always looking, which was not royalty. It was not being an actual influencer in the world. She really just wants to be a Kardashian.
So, why would Meghan chase their approval? The answer, of course, is simple. Power. For all her words about values and principles, Meghan understands in Hollywood, influence trumps everything. She could rail against the monarchy for being out of touch with modern culture, but here she was, aligning herself with a family that has arguably exploited culture more aggressively than anyone else in the last 2 decades. And audiences noticed the contradiction. Critics pounced on it. How could Meghan position herself as a voice for dignity and authenticity while simultaneously begging for Kardashian validation? Wasn't she proving that, deep down, she wanted the same thing the royals had given her, just in a different form? Only this time, it wasn't a crown. It was an Instagram tag. The hypocrisy narrative took on a life of its own. Some argued that Meghan wasn't just inconsistent, she was opportunistic, that she would say whatever fit her needs in the moment, whether that meant playing the victim of royal racism or fawning over a family with its own history of controversial racial optics. Others suggested that her values talk had never been genuine in the first place. It was branding. And now, her actions were betraying the brand. It is the real danger for Meghan. When your entire image is built on words like authenticity, truth, and integrity, even the slightest whiff of hypocrisy can destroy you. This wasn't a whiff. This was a full-blown contradiction, broadcast in real time.
Level, and that has always been her level. This idea that she's some brilliant woman who married into the royal family and, they were just basically what she always said was too dumb for her.
This wasn't a whiff. This was a full-blown contradiction, broadcast in real time. The Kardashians didn't just reject her gift basket, they exposed her double standard. To understand why Meghan Markle's Kardashian stunt fell so flat, you have to understand the brutal social food chain in Hollywood. This isn't just an industry, it's a hierarchy. And it's not written anywhere. There's no handbook, no guide, no posted rules. But if you've spent any time observing celebrity culture, you'll see how it operates. Fame in Hollywood and equal. It's ranked. At the very top, you have the untouchables. Beyoncé, Rihanna, Taylor Swift, Oprah. These figures who don't just participate in culture, they define it. They don't chase relevance. Relevance bends to them. Their influence is global. Their longevity decades long. They don't need PR baskets. When they launch something, the world pays attention by default. One tier below them, you have the moguls. The Kardashians, Kris Jenner's carefully managed empire, Gwyneth Paltrow with Goop, Kim Kardashian with Skims, Kylie with Kylie Cosmetics. These people may not be beloved in the same way as Beyoncé or Oprah, but they are undeniable. They move markets. They dictate beauty standards. They are tapped into the mechanics of fame so intimately that their approval can make or break entire brands. They are culture shapers, even if the culture they're shaping is controversial. And then there's Meghan Markle. Where does she fit? This is where the hierarchy becomes brutally clear. Meghan sits awkwardly between categories, not quite an untouchable, not quite a mogul. Once as a working actress on Suits, she was a mid-tier celebrity, respected, but niche. Then, by marrying into the royal family, she vaulted into a different kind of fame. Global, regal, symbolic. But leaving that institution stripped her of the very framework that gave her influence. In Hollywood terms, she's a displaced figure too famous to be treated like a normal actress, not famous enough to dominate the conversation on her own. That's why her pivot to the Kardashians mattered so much. She wasn't just in a PR basket. She was trying to climb tiers. She was asking the moguls of Hollywood to validate her as one of their own. But here's the thing about hierarchy. Those at the top don't hand out validation lightly. For them, aligning with Meghan didn't add value, it risked diluting their brand. The Kardashians
She was going to achieve these great things. No. Meghan is always the one who has been shallow, vain, and vapid. And I think she proves that via this Instagram post.
But here's the thing about hierarchy. Those at top don't hand out validation lightly. For them, aligning with Meghan didn't add value, it risked diluting their brand. The Kardashians are masterful at curating their image. They attach themselves to people or product when it benefits them, when it reinforces their dominance. A Meghan endorsement from their perspective wasn't worth it. She wasn't a rising star. She wasn't a hot new designer. She wasn't culturally indispensable. She was a fallen royal trying to reinvent herself. That's not aspirational. It's risky. Hollywood hierarchy is unforgiving. It doesn't reward effort. It rewards perception. And Meghan's PR stunt made her look like someone punching upward, trying desperately to grasp a rung on the ladder that's out of reach. Instead of being seen as a peer, she looked like a petitioner. And in this world, that's fatal. Because here's the unspoken rule of Hollywood hierarchy: power doesn't beg, and Meghan begged. The Kardashians' silence wasn't just a snub, it was a mirror. It reflected something Meghan had been struggling with since she left the royal family: relevance. When Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal news in 2020, they were at the center of the global conversation. The Oprah interview, with its explosive allegations of racism and cruelty, dominated headlines. Netflix gave them a multi-million-dollar deal. Spotify signed them up. For a while, it seemed like Meghan cracked the code. She could take the fame of the monarchy and repackage it into a Hollywood career. But fast forward a few years and the shine has worn off. The Spotify deal collapsed, with executives publicly mocking Meghan's podcast as shallow and uninspired. Netflix hasn't gotten much cultural traction from their projects beyond the initial docuseries, and the couple's public approval ratings, both in the UK and in the US, plummeted. The once sympathetic narrative of escaping the royals has morphed into accusations of hypocrisy, opportunism, and endless whining. This is Meghan's relevance problem in a nutshell. She no longer controls the conversation. She's not setting the narrative. She's reacting to it. And in Hollywood, that's a death sentence. Relevance isn't about past achievements. It's about constant presence, constant evolution, constant ability to hold attention. The Kardashians have mastered this by feeding their audience non-stop content. Meghan hasn't. That's why the gift baskets mattered so much. They weren't just promotional items. They were a shortcut attempt to borrow relevance. If Khloe or Kim posted, Meghan's brand would have been injected straight into the bloodstream of pop culture. Instead, the silence highlighted what everyone was already whispering: Meghan doesn't move culture. She doesn't generate conversation on her own anymore. She relies on the echoes of royal scandal or on attaching herself to bigger names. And the cruelest part, even the scandals don't land the way they used to. Once, every Meghan headline was explosive. Now it's met with eye rolls, fatigue, or outright indifference. She's become overexposed without being truly influential. And that's the worst possible place to be in Hollywood: famous, but not powerful. Talked about, but not desired. The relevance problem bleeds directly into her brand. As ever was supposed to be chic, aspirational, timeless. But when the face of the brand is seen as desperate for attention, the
Previous comments that they've made about, for example, the skin tone of their baby's skin. Now, I'm actually not calling the Kardashians out for that. I think they were having an honest conversation, but
the relevance problem bleeds directly into her brand. As ever supposed to be chic, aspirational, timeless. But when the face of the brand is seen as desperate for attention, the product itself can't escape that association. Consumers don't buy candles or spreads, they buy the story behind them, and Meghan's story at this point feels shaky. So when the Kardashians ignored her, it wasn't just about a gift basket, it was a cultural verdict. A confirmation that Meghan Markle, the woman who once captivated the world, might already be slipping into the background. The Kardashian snub was just embarrassing in the moment. It planted seeds of long-term damage for Meghan Markle's public image and her brand's trajectory. Because here's the truth about Hollywood: humiliation lingers. When the perception sets in that you're desperate, that you're trying too hard, it becomes almost impossible to shake. For Meghan, the optics of this failed stunt didn't just make her look needy, they undermined her credibility as a brand builder. When Gwyneth Paltrow launched Goop, she didn't beg for validation. When Kim Kardashian dropped Skims, she didn't sell baskets to Hollywood elites hoping for scraps of attention. These women layered their own cultural gravity to attract others. Meghan, on the other hand, broadcast the opposite, that her brand couldn't stand on its own, that it needed a Kardashian stamp of approval to survive. And that perception has consequences. For consumers, lifestyle brands are about aspiration. People buy Goop products because
It's the point that actually, if you are going to ally yourself with this family, is there not a bit of hypocrisy?
for consumers, lifestyle brands are about aspiration. People buy Goop products because they want a piece of Gwyneth's seemingly effortless chic. They buy Skims because Kim has positioned herself as the ultimate tastemaker in body-conscious fashion. But if Meghan's ever is associated with desperation and rejection, why would consumers see it as aspirational? Instead of luxury, it reeks of insecurity. Instead of confidence, it radiates neediness. Investors and business partners see it too. Behind every lifestyle brand is a machine of financiers, distributors, and marketers. They want confidence. They want momentum. They want to back someone who can generate headlines for the right reasons. If Meghan becomes known as someone who fumbles optics, who calculates the culture, who gets publicly ignored by the very people she's trying to emulate, then her business opportunities shrink. No one wants to hitch themselves to a sinking ship. And perhaps the most damaging element of all, meme-ification. The internet doesn't let go of humiliation easily. Already, jokes about Meghan's Kardashian baskets circulate online, with people mocking the idea that she thought a candle and a jar of jam would buy cultural relevance. Once you become a punchline, it's hard to recover. The Kardashians themselves have been mocked endlessly, yes, but here's the difference. They monetize their mockery. They put scandals into storylines, dramas into ratings. Meghan doesn't have that infrastructure. She has humiliation without the redemption arc. So what's long-term damage? It's not just about this one incident. It's about the pattern it reinforces.
This woman, in terms of her hatred for the royal family, compared to how she will excuse anything from the Markle, from the Kardashian clan.
So what's long-term damage? It's not just about this one incident. It's about the pattern it reinforces. Meghan Markle's been trying for years to prove she can transition from royal to Hollywood power player. Every failed deal, every awkward project, every desperate PR move chips away at that image. The Kardashian silence didn't just hurt in the moment it became a symbol of her struggle. A single PR basket turned into a metaphor for Meghan's entire post-royal career. Grand gestures, unmet expectations, and an audience that isn't buying what she's selling. In Hollywood, there's nothing worse than relevance. This miscalculation pushed her closer to it. At its core, this saga isn't just Meghan Markle. It's a cautionary tale about how fame, branding, and power work in Hollywood. And it reveals a lesson that anyone celebrity, influencer, or entrepreneur ignores at their peril. The first lesson is simple. Power.
Yes, because she wants the Kardashians' attention. She doesn't really care about the royal family. And you have to think about the time when Meghan Markle made those allegations. It was at the height of BLM, and she really...
The first lesson is simple. Power doesn't beg. In the world of celebrity hierarchy, validation flows downward, not upward. Beyoncé doesn't chase endorsements. People chase her. Oprah doesn't send baskets to reality stars. Reality stars dream of being invited to her couch. The Kardashians, for all their critics, understand this dynamic better than almost anyone. They never position themselves as needing someone else's approval. They position themselves as the approval. That's why they win. The second lesson, authenticity isn't optional. Your entire public persona is built on values, integrity, honesty, independence. Then every action is aligned with that narrative. When Meghan tried to cozy up to the Kardashians, she contradicted her brand. She exposed the gap between what she says and what she does. And in a culture hypersensitive to hypocrisy, that gap can destroy credibility. The third lesson, relevance is earned, not borrowed. Meghan thought she could borrow relevance from the Kardashians by attaching her brand to theirs. But relevance doesn't transfer that way. It's not contagious. It's cultivated through consistency, creativity, and resonance with the public. The Kardashians generate relevance by relentlessly producing content, controversies, and cultural hooks. Meghan hasn't mastered that rhythm. And until she does, every attempt to piggyback will look like desperation. And finally, the fourth lesson. Hollywood never forgets. In politics, in business, entertainment, you can recover from scandals, from mistakes, from failures, but only if you maintain the aura of strength. Hollywood is powered by perception, and perception is fragile. Once you're seen as weak, as needy, as begging for attention, That perception calcifies. It defines you. And every move you make afterward is filtered through that lens. That's why Meghan Kardashian's stunt resonates far beyond a few baskets of candles and jam. It's a case study in how not to play the Hollywood game. She misread the hierarchy, underestimated the optics, and overestimated her role. And in doing so, she gave the Kardashians the easiest win of all, the power to ignore her. Because in Hollywood, silence speaks louder than words, and this silence told us everything we needed to know. So, what are we left with? A basket of candles, a jar of jam, a few handwritten notes, and a silence that roared louder than any Kardashian Instagram post ever could. Meghan Markle's failed play wasn't just a minor embarrassment. It was a flashing neon sign or Hollywood miscalculation. Here's the brutal truth. Meghan tried to buy cultural relevance with artisanal candles and branded spreads. She tried to leapfrog the hierarchy by piggybacking on the Kardashians' empire. But Hollywood doesn't work that way. Influence isn't transferable like currency. It's not something you can mail in a basket. It's earned slowly, deliberately, through strategy and charisma, through persistence and presence. And Meghan, instead of proving her own pull, revealed her lack of it. What makes this moment stand even more is the symbolism. Meghan's entire post-royal career has been about reinventing herself as to duchess, from duchess to activist, from activist to lifestyle mogul. But each reinvention has been met with diminishing returns. The Oprah interview shocked, the Netflix docuseries intrigued, the Spotify podcast fizzled. And now, the as-ever brand launch is tied not to luxury or aspiration, but to the image of a snubbed gift basket. The Kardashians didn't need to say a word. Their silence was the verdict. And it said, "You are not one of us. You are not in our league. You are not relevant enough to amplify." For Meghan, that's devastating. Because in Hollywood, perception is reality. If people believe you're desperate, then desperate is what you are. If people see you as irrelevant, then irrelevant is what you become. And once that perception sets in, it takes Herculean effort to undo it. But there's also bigger here, something almost Shakespearean. Meghan Markle's story has always been one of ambition. She reached the heights of royalty, only to abandon it for freedom. She sought to conquer Hollywood, only to find herself cast aside. And now, in this chapter, we see the tragedy of ambition colliding with the brutal machinery of fame. A woman who once captured the world's imagination, reduced to a punchline over jam jars and ignored gift baskets. The final irony, Meghan once accused the royal family of silencing her. But now, years later, it's Hollywood's silence that cuts the deepest. The silence of the Kardashians. The silence of the influencers who didn't post. The silence of a culture that, perhaps, has already moved on. And that's the real sting, not rejection, but indifference. Because in Hollywood, rejection at least means you matter enough to be acknowledged. Indifference, that means you're already fading. So what's the takeaway? The basket scandal wasn't just about optics. It was about exposure. It exposed Meghan's position in the hierarchy, her reliance on others for validation, her struggle to stay relevant. It showed us that in the ruthless world of Hollywood, there are no shortcuts, no quick fixes, no baskets big enough to buy belonging. And maybe that's the ultimate lesson. Power, relevance, influence, they can't be gifted. They can only be earned.